Hello, everybody. Welcome to another broadcast booth wrestling commentary. Joining me once again is my good brother from down under, Slick. How you doing, Shawn Fewster?
I am doing very well, Moon. It's going to be a happening once again.
So the reason we're picking this one is not the happiest of circumstances, but we wanted to celebrate the career of Razor Ramon, who we had to say goodbye to. We had to say goodbye to the bad guy this past week. And the ladder match, for me, is one of the biggest matches of, I guess, the 90s and beyond. I mean, I have my huge matches from the 80s and before. Hogan-Andre, which we've done, is definitely one of those. But in terms of the modern era of wrestling, I think a lot of what we see these days started here. And I guess some people would call it the genesis, and some people would call this the, where the problem began, if you are concerned for wrestlers' health and safety these days.
This is definitely a massive changing of the guard. I remember watching this at the time and remarking to myself as a kid how different it was to what I thought wrestling was, This was such a paradigm shift, and now it's the match that so many people point back to in the same way they point back to Steamboat Savage. It's another one of those genre redefining encounters.
It really is the equivalent of that for the 90s, because it was the Intercontinental title match. It stole the show. I love Brett, but Brett versus Yoko at the end of the night doesn't really hold up to the ladder match. Brett Owen, maybe better. That is still probably the best WrestleMania opener of all time. But the ladder match has incredible replay value as well. So we're going to be watching it you can watch it wherever you want to watch. This match is everywhere. It's on all sorts of different compilations. It's from Wrestlemania 10. So if you have the network, wherever you may be in the world, queue up Wrestlemania 10. Would be your probably easiest bet. And the time stamp where we're starting right now, there has just been like an Undertaker promo, and we've just faded out from the Undertaker promo, and we've faded into a long shot of the crowd. There's a WWF banner in the top left and a WrestleMania banner in the top right. Timestamp is 1 hour, 53 minutes, 57 seconds. So I'm going to give you a countdown. 3, 2, 1, play. And on play, press play. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play. Oh my goodness.
What a maneuver. Vincent Kennedy McMahon, just when he was Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Cool idea to have the two belts hanging, because Shawn had been the Intercontinental champion, and he was suspended while champion, which was really a disgrace when I was younger watching this, because that hardly ever happened. So someone vacating a belt for an injury. I mean, you remember Dynamite Kid being carried to the ring on Davey Boy's back.
That's right.
Just to get the belts off officially instead of the suspension or a stripping. So this was setting the record straight. Shawn was the Intercontinental champion. He hadn't properly lost it. He's wrestling the new champion who won it in a tournament, and so it was an important outcome to see who was the undisputed Intercontinental champion.
And when we talk about the fact that this match set the stage for so many other things, if you think about it, what Michael just described there is also the lead up to CM Punk John Cena.
Exactly.
They took that and ran it again, because once this storyline style was established, it's like, oh, we can do this. This is a good way of dealing with injuries. This is a good way of dealing with suspensions. This is a good way of dealing with substance abuse. It's a way to keep things going and then have a good match when we come back.
They even did it in AEW recently with the interim TNT title.
That's right.
I mean, they're still carrying the two belts, which I wish they wouldn't. Dan Lambert is wearing the extra TNT title. Just have it be one belt.
I remember as a kid, this felt bigger to me because there were two belts. It almost had that as if the NWA and WWF had somehow come together, like the idea that there were two belts at stake.
U.S. champion versus IC champion.
Yeah, it just gave it that another flavor.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that theme song, man. The tires squealing. That theme song. I've been hearing this a lot this past week in all the Razor Ramon tributes, and I had forgotten what an amazing theme song this is. He is just using machismo, man. It unfortunately, yes, he's just pure cool. And the surf walk, I believe he does under the ladder.
Yep.
So
which Jeff Hardy, of course, would do many, many times afterwards.
The surf walk. So I listened to a shoot interview with him this past week, and he was asked about the origin of the surf walk. I just didn't want people touching me when I was like a heel when I first showed up. Like, that's just such a brilliant explanation of why he came up with that. Just don't touch me, man.
It's so hard explaining to people who are familiar with the business today how much of a seismic shift Razor was, because he was a heel. He was unmistakably a heel, but everybody loved him, and they had to turn him babyface, but in doing so, he still wrestled as a heel. Nothing actually changed about him. He just healed on the people that we liked even less.
Like Piper and if in anything, 87.
Yeah, but more so in some ways. Like, this is proto-Austin, really.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, very true. Because Piper, even though he was still heelish, he was much more entertaining.
Still shaking hands with people before and after matches, still showing respect to Brad. This is almost your beginning of your Austin-style character.
He's still threatening the ring attendant and throwing a toothpick at him. So exactly what you just said, pure, full heel, just different targets.
Yeah, the fact that he would eventually share the ring with Randy Savage and the two of them as a babyface tag team, that he was still a heel. It was just he was the Batman. He was the anti-hero. The first time we'd ever really seen that work within the WWF space.
I haven't seen this match in quite some time, and so much of his coolness, I feel like it got lost in the jump to WCW. I know he wasn't allowed to use quite a few mannerisms and stuff, but a lot of them were his. I mean, they were the Diamond Stud before he jumped over to the WWF as Razor, and he owned them. But in the NWO, he did morph into like a different personality. He lost this suaveness, this commanding presence, especially in the later days of his WCW run. Watching this back, though, this is Razor at his absolute peak in his prime.
Not to mention Michaels either. I mean, in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, it's become very, very cool to bash on Shawn Michaels. And there are many varied and genuine reasons that you can do that. But between the ropes, there's few better.
Brett never quit. I'll just throw that out there.
I didn't say there was none better. I said there was few better.
Yeah, Michael's in his prime too. This is a great example of a wrestler who launched into the stratosphere because of a loss instead of a win.
Yep.
The other big one that comes to mind is Steve Austin at WrestleMania 13 against Bret Hart. By quit match, he passes out, but that was the rocket pack. That was the push, brother. And,
well, look, if you're capable of booking a decent wrestling match and you're capable of wrestling a decent wrestling match, the loss should make the other person as well. Rising tide is supposed to lift all ships.
Right.
Any conclusion to a storyline should send both competitors off in different directions so that they're both still viable. If they're not both still viable, then you've absolutely screwed up as a booker.
Yeah, there's Vinny Vegas getting involved.
Oh, isn't it the Great and Powerful Oz?
Yeah. We've got 3 Click members involved in this match. His voice, to me, never went with this particular incarnation of Diesel. Diesel, I figured he sounded a certain way, and then when he spoke as Vinny Vegas, hey, what? I'm just minding my own business here. Like, that's not what I expected this big Diesel to sound like.
I just find it interesting that we're talking about incompetent bookers and Kevin Nash shows up on screen. But anyway.
Oh, boy. He's getting ejected, and this never fails. A wrestler ejecting anyone gets a massive Road Warrior pop. Yeah!
Oh, yeah. Kick that bum out of here.
Why does it get such a pop every time?
Still
Darn
makes
it!
me excited.
And he leaves. 7 foot tall monster leaves. I better leave.
Yeah. Back in my previous life, when I was actually a wrestling commentator, I would still legitimately pop for that, even as a commentator, because it's just so exciting. It's like, now we're going to get a clean match.
And I'm glad he doesn't come back. That could have really, such a great match could have been ruined with a smudge finish of him coming back and getting involved. Now Michaels is his selling isn't all that different from his selling against Hogan in the SummerSlam match, but it seems more forgivable here than in the Hogan match.
Yeah, I think here he's trying to make his mate look good. Although, interestingly, they weren't close at this point, I
No,
understand.
they
It was
well they
after this that the two of them became friends. They
how could
weren't
you not
enemies or anything, but
how could you not bond over this
yeah.
match? I mean, when you have the match of the card on the
Hmm.
card of the year, it's gonna make you feel like you've accomplished something great together.
Yeah, and I mean, there are others that could probably like be completely across that. Like my former commentary partner Tyler Daniels knows chapter and verse of the Scott Hall story, but I think I remember hearing that they were good sell there. I
Yeah,
think they were not particularly like they just weren't buddies at this point yet.
the Razor's Edge.
Love that move so much. Crucifix powerbomb,
Who
all sets it, wears it.
who could have seen? Yeah, exactly. Who could have seen that happening? Setting up for the Razor's Edge right next to the ropes.
Michael, are you saying this is choreographed in some way, shape, or form?
No, they're calling it in the ring.
But I love the Razor's Edge. Absolutely love it. Mind you, interestingly, for people that can't do the Razor's Edge well, leading cause of torn biceps.
I was gonna say I love the Razor's Edge by Scott Hall. He
Hmm.
did it right. He did it safely. Watch him, man. Really watch his knees when he does the Razor's Edge, especially on the enhancement talent
Hmm.
on Superstars and on Wrestling Challenge. That guy had cat-like reflexes for such a big guy. He gets his knees in there and like it's all about that split second timing right before impact. He is protecting those guys, and he knew how to do it. You can't just hoist him up and drop him. You got to be cat-like reflexes to pull that off.
One of the best young wrestlers in Australia is a beast of a monster called Baron, and he does a version of the Razor's Edge of the Crucifix Powerbomb that is beautiful to behold. Keep an eye on him because he will be a massive deal around the world, I guarantee it. The blue steel stairs.
Yeah. Does the hair really take that much away from the match? Shawn seems to dread his old hairstyle, but I never notice it. It was just, it was the times.
I remember Brian Danielson saying to me in an interview once, he grew long hair just because it looks so good when you have to move your head. It's like anime speed lines when you're whipping past. That's why I grew my hair.
Yeah.
And I never thought of it that way. It's just adding a special effect.
It's also good for selling when you're selling a punch and just hair is flying all over the place. And a mullet, actually, not to advocate for mullets, but in wrestling terms, it keeps the hair out of your face so that you can see what you're doing and you're not making any mistakes, and you get that dynamic in the back. Business in the front, party in the back.
One single shot with the ladder,
Yeah.
2 shots with the ladder, and the crowd's already screaming. Oh, back in the day.
Yeah.
When people did things that mattered rather than flipping around the ring all the time and trying to look like a video game.
This was so out of the ordinary. A steel chair shot was death back in the day. And to hit a guy with a ladder 3 times, this is why I said this was the shifting of the times. This is what we see all the time these days. Multiple chair shots, multiple ladder shots, tables. Guys are getting put through tables and not being pinned. It's it increased everyone's life bar. This match did.
70-year-old men are leaping off the top of the bleachers through 12 tables.
Yeah, but that's not any ordinary man.
That's the Batman of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Look, people climbing ladders at normal speed. Oh, you'd all learn.
Well, those boots are slippery. They have soft bottoms.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, no.
It's a U. It's a moon.
I'm surprised Peacock hasn't digitally distorted that yet. I guess that's not offensive yet. I don't know. With Sean's attitude at the time, maybe the Peacock people are saying, well, if we're distorting that, we'd have to distort the whole guy.
It's Vince McMahon's favorite rear end. Don't forget that either.
And Sean's selling here. He's limping. I don't remember his knee getting worked over, but just the fact that he's limping around in a ladder match seems appropriate.
This is good stuff.
Going
Back
up,
in the day.
gonna jump off the ladder. This is back when he was still dipping into a lot of the Rockers' high-flying offense. Almost looks like he could have reached the belt there.
Should have grabbed it on the way down.
There's the trouble with some of these ladder matches is it happened in the rematch, the big rematch between these two guys at a SummerSlam the following year, I think, is that it can be maybe a whole match can really be derailed by a blown end spot, like when Michaels is trying to get the belt in the rematch and it won't release and he falls off and then he throws a hissy fit and just stomps back up there. I think Razor called it on the fly. I'll try to give you a Razor's edge and backdrop me out. But it was clearly a botch to a nearly perfect match.
Rocking the ladder and beautiful. Look at that.
That slingshot off the ropes is just amazing.
So good.
He's very Kurt Hennig-like in this match.
Yes, good point.
This is, I think, before a lot of the attitude issues came in. There isn't really much like the one thing I don't like about classic Shawn Michaels matches is when you can tell the attitude of the real man coming out, like, yelling at Vader for blowing a spot like that. There's a time and place for that, and it's in the back after the match, not in the ring.
How could you yell at this version of Scott for anything? At this point, the man was on his game.
Yeah. Such an incredible blend of strength, speed, agility, reflexes, coolness. It's really too bad he never ascended to like the world title level. And I get why he made the jump. I mean, he was feeling like he was spinning his wheels and like, what more do I need to do? Is this my glass ceiling? Like, what choice did he have other than to leave?
He's very much in the mold of a Piper, a Jake. He's that guy who is sort of the upper mid-card. And I don't mean this as a diss, I mean this as a high compliment. You don't have to hold the world championship in order to be considered one of the best of all time. And I don't think it ever really hurt him. I can see how at this point in his career he probably thought it would, but long term, it didn't hurt his standing or his status or the people's love for him.
Yeah. He wasn't content with being Tito Santana.
Well, nobody should be content with being Tito. Holy, forgotten that spot. Wow.
Well, Tito was.
Arriba.
I like Tito Santana. He was one of my favorites growing up. When I first got into wrestling, it was all about the chase for Tito to get the belt back from that dastardly Macho Man before I realized that Macho was the greatest of all time. But he is the greatest of all time because one of the guys he beat was Tito Santana.
Hey, if you beat an absolute mug, then you are a mug. If you beat someone great, then you're great.
Well, he needed cold rolled steel to beat Tito, too. Shawn is getting as good as he gave. So there was a ladder match before this. I believe Brett introduced the ladder match to the WWF, and he had a ladder match or a few ladder matches with Shawn. I don't think they were anything like this, though. I think Brett's was more pulling it on himself.
Well, have you seen the Stampede Wrestling ladder match between Brett and Jake for the money hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a ladder match as we understand them to be. This is the one that turned a ladder match into the language and the style that we understand and expect.
Yeah, before this, the ladder was a tool in order to get up there, and the worst that could happen is that you fall off of it. But now it's a weapon.
Well, legend goes that there were people backstage on this particular night watching this match going, what are they doing? You can't do that.
Right.
And when they got backstage, they actually copped heat for it from some of the talent saying, you can't do that. You've just destroyed the business. You're killing the business.
And they went over their time too, I think.
Yeah, they did. I'm shocked by that.
I
Said
remember
nobody ever.
remember Savage got really hot at them because someone's match got cut. I think it was like a
Yeah.
big multi-man match that got cut because these guys went over.
Mm.
That sucks that those guys didn't get their payday. I don't know what you do. Like maybe donate some of your pay if you're in this match to those guys. But this match really did need those few extra minutes in order to be one of the best WrestleMania matches ever, right up there with Savage Steamboat.
I'm sure Wrestlers Court took care of it.
Yeah.
You know, you can sue in Wrestlers Court, right?
Buy him a beer. It's settled. Rest in peace.
Never been a defendant in Wrestlers Court. Can honestly say I have been the subject of litigation a couple of times, though. Always an interesting experience.
Razor is quite a bit bigger than Michaels, but he's not acting like it in this match. He's not acting like the big man overpowering the little Meng.
Because you've got the ladder as the third element.
Equalizer.
Yeah, and they're making that work for them.
That's what makes this match work so well. It's just the ladder should be the great equalizer in any match. It should be Big Show versus Rey Mysterio ladder match, same deal.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful punches.
Punches are incredible.
Oh, here we go. Oh, that was probably supposed to be the end spot. Crap. Scott's lucky he didn't take his arm off just then.
Yeah, or tweak his leg, tweak his knee.
I don't remember what match it was in where somebody actually put the ladder over their opponent and then went up. But I always liked that as a finish.
Trapped him? Like put it on his neck or something?
Yeah. No, like as in they were lying underneath it, just wobbling, going, couldn't get up. I have a feeling Jericho was the victim.
Drop kicking the ladder. Ooh.
I think I might fall off here because I'm supposed to.
Inertia.
Who's she? I don't know her. Is she out the back? Is she a rat? Love the King's commentary in this.
The crowd is hot.
So weird to think that Lawler was a babyface in Memphis for so long when all of his national TV exposure was always as a heel commentator.
Yeah, he's the king of the bizarro reaction of the crowd.
Yeah.
In Memphis, he's Elvis on Velvet.
And that Jimmy Hart was his foil for so long.
Mm-hmm. Before it was Sweet Chin Music. I don't think it was the finisher there at this point. He's still maybe using the teardrop suplex or the pile driver.
Well, here in 2022, I demand 7 more of those before the match can finish.
Asking for a super kick party?
Well, more of a intimate gathering.
Okay. Super kick powwow. That's if they ever go to the WWE. Super kick powwow. Is he going for the Razor's Edge? No, this is his finisher. Or it was at the time. Really nice pile driver. Right up there with Orndorff.
Pile drivers.
Yeah. Paul Orndorff saw that pile driver and went, "That suck, kid." Thought I was going to say that was pretty good. No.
Is this where he rides it down?
Yeah.
That's right.
How do you take this?
How do you learn to get crunched under a metal ladder?
I remember watching this when I was younger thinking, like, what's the trick? Like, is it foam? Is it padding?
No, it's just a lot of pain pills after the show.
Yeah. It's not too easy on Shawn either.
Yeah.
Oh. He's pretty cool too, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to admit because, he's not the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. But Michaels has his moments in this match, I will admit.
And he's not Sting.
Far from it. It's a really durable ladder.
It's done well, hasn't it?
It's not exactly centered under there.
It's not kind of what I was suggesting, but it's close.
He's got his arm possibly trapped under there. This makes no sense whatsoever. The placement of Razor, like,
I think it's meant to be arrogance. I'm going to take it from over you.
There you
over
go.
your cold dead. Oh no, I'm going to fall off again.
Who could have seen this happening?
Damn you, gravity!
Oh, the shoulder block spot. Yes. Boom.
Oh,
So we're near the end here. He's gonna. You see his foot slipping through there. Oh no.
That's a great spot, actually. Tied up in the ropes all the time in the world because I'll get the ladder up and I'll do what I want.
Yeah. And
it's fantastic.
I didn't notice it the first few times I watched this match because I'm watching Razor grab the belts. We're in the home stretch here. But as Shawn releases his leg, he catches his arm in the ropes next. So it's a little over the top, but right here, he's in the background, so it's not as easy to see. But now his arm is caught. So it's like, what's next? His head. Oh, perfect ending. Perfect ending as he's falling and they release. So I mentioned earlier, sometimes that gets botched and they won't come off, but it just released as he's falling, as Shawn is reaching, and picture perfect end to a picture perfect match.
You know what I like about Shawn getting tied up in the ropes? It means that the matter isn't settled.
Right.
You know, heel logic says you only got up that ladder because I was tied up in the ropes. If I hadn't been, you didn't beat me. You made me suffer a mild inconvenience. And that's a great ending because it means there's more story to tell.
And going into it, the whole argument was we need something more than just a traditional match for this dispute over who's the real IC champ. We need a ladder match to be definitive. And now that they've had the ladder match, Shawn can say, you never pinned me.
That's right. So we can get another couple of months out of this and another pay-per-view buy rate out of this because the business, as much as it's an art, is all about butts on seats.
And did they do rematches after this?
I think, did you say it was a SummerSlam match?
Well, it was the following year when Shawn was a face.
Okay. It definitely leaves room for more dispute between them anyway.
Yeah. Well,
and Diesel, I mean, who knows? Who knows what the point was?
Won the IC belt not long after this, didn't he?
I'm not sure. This is during my layaway period. Like, this is the time where I'm not watching wrestling that religiously.
Is this the match that got cut?
Double J.
I think they got cut, so they're just giving him a backstage promo.
Oh, look, it's Roman Reigns' dad.
Sure.
And a very young Rikishi.
Yeah. And just like that.
Looks like we're not going to have a 10-man tag.
And feel bad for those guys who didn't get their match, but that was an amazing match. And probably time better spent giving the ladder match extra time.
And this is the importance of commentary in wrestling, because I always used to say that with commentary in wrestling, you control the narrative. Nothing ever goes wrong because you say on air, oh my gosh, this happened, and therefore it was always meant to happen that way. So that 10-man tag was always meant to be cancelled because we said in that moment, it looks like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they just couldn't work their differences out. Todd
right.
Pettengill with an earring while he's talking to Mr. President. That's weird. Yeah, it was a great match.
It was.
One of my favorites.
An era-redefining match between two talents who, let's face it, changed the face of the business. Like them or loathe them, they absolutely changed the place for everybody.
Do you think that's the best Scott Hall / Razor Ramon match?
God, I don't know. I'll admit I'm not as familiar with his stuff as a lot of people are. He falls into that gap for me because I became disenchanted with wrestling for the first time in my life around WrestleMania 8. And then WrestleMania 9 absolutely killed it for me. I got out of wrestling. I watched WrestleMania 10 almost out of obligation because it was the 10th one. And that's why I've seen that. But then I fall out of wrestling right up through until Bash at the Beach, Hogan's heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
And that entire time for me, the new generation is a blank space for me.
It's kind of a blessing.
I've watched pieces of it since, obviously, but I didn't watch it contemporaneously. So I sort of look back at the posters and the advertisements for the matches and I think, wow, what were you doing?
We'll have to catch you up on that and do some Thurman Sparky plug for a future commentary. And the Portuguese Man o' War.
Can we do the mime? Like the magician mime guy?
Is that Fantasio?
Yeah. I've seen pictures of him.
He's like a precursor to Crow Sting.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Rent Boy Sting.
Yeah. Wish Sting.
When you ask Sting, what is it? We've got Sting at home.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That's my favorite Scott Hall / Razor Ramon match. A lot of people have also thrown out the Royal Rumble match. I think it was from the year before he challenged Brett for the world title. And that's up there because he's wrestling Brett. Scott was just, he could work with anyone. He's just one of those great talents that adapted to whoever he was in the ring with. He was a chameleon. So even though he had his character down to such a perfect T, once he got in the ring and worked as a wrestler, it doesn't matter how big he was. He became a small Meng when he's working against Shawn Michaels. If he's working against Diesel, he becomes a big Meng. And that's really impressive for a guy his size.
And then think of the stuff that he did for X-Pac / 123 Kid, and then again for Jericho in WCW. He just knew, no, the time for them to go over is now. I'm going to call an audible and I'll worry about it later.
Yeah, by all accounts, he seems like he was a really, really good dude who cared a lot for other people. He's famous for saying that this isn't show friends, it's show business. And the money was important to him, but there's also many instances of him, like the Jericho match, calling it on the fly and changing the finish. He was supposed to win, and he changed the finish to Jericho winning. And you don't hear about that too much in wrestling. Randy Savage is another one who called it on the fly and said, I think I'm taking the diamond cutter in the middle of the ring. And people saying, no, that's not what you're doing. He's like, I think I'm doing what I want to do. So I highly recommend listening to some Scott Hall shoot interviews on YouTube that he did years ago. The guy was really, really wise in terms of the wrestling business. A lot of common sense, surprisingly small lack of ego. Just this is what's right for the match. This is what's right for the business. And he was just, to me, seemed like a wonderful blend of a guy who had his priorities straight. Take care of your family. Got to make a lot of money to take care of my kids and my family. But at the same time, this won't work if I just go in and squash everyone. Like, I can't just go in and be indestructible. I need to make my opponent look good. It needs to be a give and take, wins and losses. And it's just refreshing to hear a guy who just, his in-ring character was so full of machismo and a jerk, throwing toothpicks at people and threatening poor ring attendants. But then, to hear that same voice say, look, man, just do the right thing for your opponent. It's like, that's refreshing.
Yeah, but never forget, he's also the guy that's famous for walking into the WCW locker room and asking people what was their finisher and saying, I look forward to kicking out of it. So he could stir as much as he could make things good. He was a very complicated man by all accounts.
That's why they called him the bad guy. And we bid farewell to the bad guy. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Razor, for the memories, for all the great matches. And Godspeed to you. And Slick, thank you for joining me for this ladder match commentary.
Moon, always a pleasure, buddy.
Thank you, everyone out there, for listening along. Hope you enjoyed this. And until next time, Nerd Mustang Meng.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.